It started with a message, not the kind you expect to change your life, just a casual reply in a group chat that made me smile a little longer than usual. Her name was Maya. She wasn't trying to be charming or funny, but something about her tone felt familiar, like hearing a song you didn't know you missed. We began talking more often, first about common interests, then about everything. School stress, family quirks, what kept us up at night. It wasn't instant love. It was slower, more deliberate, like watching the sky turn from dusk to night, not realizing how dark it's gotten until you're completely under its spell. At first, I didn't tell anyone about her. Not because I was hiding something, but because it felt like something precious, too new to explain. My friends started to notice, though. They'd tease me when I smiled at my phone or walked out of class a little too quickly. I'd shrug it off, but inside, I was lit up. Maya made me feel seen, even when I didn't say much. She noticed the pauses between my words, the way I sometimes rambled when I was nervous. She didn't try to fix me. She just listened. And I found myself wanting to tell her everything. We didn't have grand gestures. No roses, no candlelit dinners. Our moments were quieter. A shared playlist, a late-night call that drifted into sleep, the way she remembered the name of my childhood pet. I'd never had anything like it before. I wasn't sure I even believed in the kind of love people wrote songs about. But Maya had this way of making ordinary moments feel extraordinary, the kind of love that doesn't announce itself, but settles into your daily life until you can't imagine it without them. Still, there was a shadow over all of it. My dad. He wasn't strict in the way some dads are, but he carried expectations like they were laws. Do well in school. Stay focused. Keep distractions at bay. Love, for him, was something that came after stability, never during. I'd grown up understanding that certain conversations were better left alone, especially when it came to relationships. He never said I couldn't date, but he didn't have to. His silence on the topic was loud enough. And while he trusted me, I knew introducing Maya would shift something. So I waited. I kept Maya in a separate part of my life, one I held close but didn't share. We talked about it, how I wasn't ready yet. She understood, even if it hurt. That understanding made me care for her even more. She never pushed, just stayed. And with every passing day, I knew I was falling deeper. Not into a fantasy, but into something real. Something worth risking comfort for. Something that would eventually have to face the world I'd kept her hidden from. I just didn't know that moment would come so soon, or so unexpectedly. Maya and I grew into something steady without needing to label it. What we had felt real, because it wasn't about big moments. It was in the consistency. She was the person I talked to first thing in the morning and the last one I messaged at night. We didn't need to say we missed each other. The silence between our texts made it obvious. She had a way of asking how my day was without it sounding routine. I never had to pretend around her. And over time, I realized how rare that was. We started finding small ways to be part of each other's routines. She'd drop by between classes just to hand me coffee or leave notes in my notebook when I wasn't looking. I'd walk her home even when it meant being late to mine. Our lives began folding into each other naturally. I'd sit through her favorite shows even though I didn't understand half of them, and she'd listen to my long rants about things that didn't interest her just because it mattered to me. That kind of care doesn't happen overnight. It builds through time, through attention, through the smallest acts that mean the most. What made it different from anything I'd felt before was the ease. With Maya, I didn't feel like I had to prove myself. I didn't have to impress her or keep up a version of me that wasn't real. And because she saw me, really saw me, I started seeing myself differently too. I wasn't just someone trying to live up to expectations. I was someone who deserved to be loved without condition or performance. She gave me that clarity, and I was better because of it. But the better it got, the harder it became to keep it separate. My dad started asking where I was spending so much time. He noticed the shift, the quiet smiles, the way I checked my phone more often, the distraction in my answers. I tried brushing it off, said I was busy with school, but his eyes told me he knew something was up. That tension started following me. It was subtle, but I felt it, like the air between us had changed. Maya could sense it too, though she never said much. She just waited for me to find the right time. The longer I waited, the more the guilt built. We both knew we couldn't keep going like that. So I told her I wanted to let my dad know soon. Not through some formal announcement, just slowly, casually. Start by inviting her over when I knew he'd be home. Nothing dramatic. She agreed, but I could tell she was nervous. I was too. I didn't know how he'd take it. Not because he wouldn't like her. Anyone would like Maya, but because she represented change. And change in our house was never easy. Still, I believed it was time. I believed in us. I just didn't know how close we were to being tested. It was a quiet Saturday. Maya had come over, nothing formal, just to hang out like we'd planned. I made sure my dad wouldn't be home until later. At least, that's what I thought. We were sitting in the living room, going over notes, talking, laughing in that low, easy way we always did. Everything felt normal until the sound of keys turned in the front door. I froze. Maya looked at me, confused, then saw my face and knew something was wrong. My dad stepped in, caught off guard just like we were. His eyes landed on Maya, then on me. The silence that followed felt endless. He didn't say anything at first, just stood there, taking in the scene. Maya stood up immediately, polite, nervous, trying to steady her voice as she greeted him. He nodded, not unkind, but not warm either. I knew that look. It wasn't anger. It was calculation. He was putting pieces together. And I had no script for this moment. He asked to speak with me alone. Maya gave me a small, understanding nod before stepping into the hallway. My dad sat down, hands folded, voice calm but heavy. He asked who she was. I told him the truth. Her name, how long we'd been seeing each other. How serious it was. He didn't raise his voice. That would have been easier. Instead, he looked disappointed, like I'd left him out of something important. And I had. He asked why I hadn't told him sooner. I didn't have a good answer. I tried to explain that I didn't know how, that I wasn't sure how he'd take it, that I didn't want to disappoint him. He looked at me for a long time before saying, "It's not that you have a girlfriend. It's that you didn't trust me enough to say it." That landed harder than anything else he could have said. He didn't question her character. He didn't say I was too young or distracted. He just felt shut out. And for once, I saw him not just as my dad, but as a person, someone who wanted to be included, even in the parts of my life he didn't fully understand. We really talked, more openly than we had in a long time. I told him how much she meant to me, that she made me better, not worse, that this wasn't a phase or some teenage distraction. I didn't beg for approval. I just asked for understanding. To my surprise, he didn't shut the door. He said he wanted to meet her properly, to see for himself. That was his way of saying he was willing to try. It wasn't a full acceptance, not yet, but it was something. A crack in the wall I thought was solid. When I stepped back into the hallway and saw Maya waiting, patient as ever, I knew that everything had shifted. Not just between me and my dad, but in how I carried this love with less fear and a lot more hope. The days after that moment were different. My dad didn't say much at first, but something had changed. The tension that used to hang between us was lighter. He asked about Maya in simple ways, what she studied, what she liked to do. No judgment, just curiosity. It wasn't a warm embrace, but it was a start. I could see he was trying, and that effort meant more than anything he could have said. For the first time, it felt like I wasn't balancing two versions of my life. Things were beginning to come together. Maya noticed it too. She said he didn't have to like her, but it mattered that he respected what we had. That stuck with me. Respect was the foundation we started to build on. A few weeks later, my dad invited her to dinner. No pressure, no forced conversation, just a seat at the table. She showed up as herself, kind, thoughtful, honest. And he listened. He asked her questions that mattered, not surface-level things, and she answered with quiet confidence. Watching them talk was surreal. Two people from such different parts of my world, finally sharing the same space. That night, after she left, my dad said something I'll never forget. He told me he could see why I cared about her, that she had strength, that she made sense for me. It wasn't dramatic or emotional, just real. And that was enough. I didn't need approval. I needed to know that the door was open, that I didn't have to hide the most important part of my life anymore. He gave me that. As time went on, things became easier. Maya wasn't a secret, and our relationship stopped feeling like something I had to protect. It could just exist, naturally, the way it always should have. We grew stronger, not because everything was perfect, but because we'd already been through the part that tested us. We knew what it meant to be patient, to communicate even when it was hard, to stand by each other in uncertainty. Looking back, I don't think the most important moment was when my dad walked in, or even when he finally accepted us. The moment that mattered most was the choice to stay. Both Maya, waiting in that hallway, and me choosing to speak honestly for the first time. That was the turning point. That was love in its purest form, quiet resilience, not performance. This story isn't just about falling in love. It's about letting love change you. It's about learning that people don't need to understand everything you feel right away to eventually respect it. It's about trust, earned, tested, and rebuilt. And most of all, it's about finding someone who stays when it's hard, and a family that grows because of it. Some moments catch you off guard. Others shape who you become. This one did both. And I wouldn't change a second of it,